whole time.
What do I say?
Hi, you guys. We're back for part 2, and we have Maria joining us from Historical Garments. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here back with everybody again.
Glad to have you. So we're on number 3 on the How to Plan an Inclusive Costuming Event worksheet. And the heading for that is event promotion. And so these are tips on how to provide a great equivalent experience for everyone during your event promotion and registration portion of your event planning. The first checkbox is use appropriate and equitable language. And I put that there because when you promote to your target audiences using exclusive language or visuals and platforms, it sends a message. So if you don't have alt text on your images, if your website isn't accessible for a reader to read, you're letting people know who have those challenges that you're not inclusive for them. The second checkbox is create accessible visuals and posts. Again, use alt text, describe your images for people who cannot see them, and make sure the fonts that you use are also reader friendly. A third point is market to a diverse array of audiences. And we talked about this a little bit before, but when you are promoting your event, you have to think about the platforms and the groups that you're sending these messages to. So if you're using Facebook and you're using historical costuming groups, and there's a big group that you tend to send your promotions to, think about other groups that you may be overlooking. Are there BIPOC costuming groups on Facebook that you could send your promotions to, but you just haven't? Are there neurodivergent groups? Are there accessibility costuming groups that maybe you could spread the word about your event and also spread the message that you were inclusive of those groups at the same time? Okay.
In your promotional materials too, if you're putting up a website or sending out like a Facebook event or something, and you're including images of previous years and stuff too, make sure that you have photos of diverse participants. If you want to show us that we are welcome, show us that people like us have gone to this event and felt safe there. If we log onto your event's website and we can see that there are people of color and like people of all different shapes and sizes and like physical ability and stuff in your photos, then we know like, hey, this event is pretty welcoming to us. And also if we go on your website and we can see your DEI policies, keep reinforcing that, because that's a really big one to me. If I can see them, I know it's a priority. And if I can see us in photos, I know we're a priority.
That being said, don't put just the one person of color like 15 times. That's also really awkward.
And then you very clearly show a token. So having a bunch of different people and stuff and a lot of different diversity in your photos and stuff in your event photography, that's pretty important.
And if you're having a hard time finding those types of pictures when you're going back and looking in your archive, that's a flag, right? For you to see like, okay, what have we not done correctly in the past that we clearly haven't had a diverse event. So that's always something to look for as well. I did want to also mention when you are creating the documents or any marketing promotion tools, contrast is one of the issues too that I see a lot happen is, and there's contrast checkers online. You could literally just Google contrast checker. And that way, you know that the color palette that you're using is also going to be reader friendly. And so I recommend that you use one of those so that way the colors that you are matching together or the text that you're putting on top of other text is going to be better visible for people that are hard of sight.
I do want to say, if you find that in the past you have not had a lot of people of color, it's not too late. We're not saying, just highlight the one person you do have, because that's awkward. But, now you know what you have to work on. It's okay to make mistakes and fix them and do better next year.
And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you grow diversity in your event. So if you've been struggling with that in the past, these are some easy steps to implement that you can do and to hopefully make inclusion a little less intimidating so that we can all enjoy events going forward.
Agreed. And I will say I have been that person on like the front page of a website. And that it makes you feel like a token because you're like, all the other stuff you could do for equity and inclusion, but what you do is put my picture 4 times on your website? No, please don't. So I asked them to take my picture down. I asked them to remove my likeness from their entire website because I didn't want to promote, I didn't want to be a part of false advertising, right? It feels really icky. Don't do that to people. It doesn't feel good. The next line under event promotion that says highlight different ways to participate. That means if you're having a dance or a ball and the ball is your event, let people know whether there will be seating, right? Or if everyone has to stand if they're not dancing. Because someone who has an accessibility need, like I've had 2 knee surgeries. I cannot stand up all night, especially in heels. Let me know that there's going to be seating available to where if I only can dance 2 dances, I can still sit around and chat with people. Are there going to be other things to do other than dance that I can participate in? Perhaps is there going to be a table of games where I can sit and do something else and still participate in this really fun ball atmosphere, but not be standing up or dancing? Any other different ways that you have to participate or different accessibility levels that you have for the venue, feel free to highlight that. And that just gives me more information on whether or not I can spend 3 hours at your event.
That was something I actually cared a lot about when planning the St. Louis Historical Costume Ball. I didn't want just dancing and loud music because that can be overwhelming for people who have sensory issues, or even if you don't, that's kind of overwhelming. And, so we actually picked a place that not only has a ballroom, but also has a sitting room where people can eat food. I also picked one that has a quiet room upstairs for people who want to sit quietly and sew. So I'll have sewing kits available for people to sit around and sew quietly because not every people want to go to balls, but not everyone wants to dance the entire time. And I also have a quiet room downstairs for also board games or whist. So that was something I cared a lot about because I do think that different activities lets people with different needs find their niche.
I also think it's really important to emphasize, like, it's important not to make assumptions about your participants' ability to participate. And so even if you think, oh, well, everyone going to my event is able-bodied and stuff, like they would all enjoy dancing, that may not necessarily be true because like sometimes we may appear able-bodied, we may seem ambulatory and stuff, but we also have like health conditions that can flare up. And so I know personally, like I love going to balls, I love dancing, but when my health conditions are acting up and I'm in a lot of pain, I can't keep up with that. And so going to those events makes me really sad because then I feel like I have nothing to do but sit and watch everyone have fun. And so having alternative activities and stuff like games or an art craft or something, like even if it's like silhouette cutting or like as a hand sewing thing that you can do in another room and stuff, like that's really fun for me because then I know that even if my body is not able to keep up with the physical activities and stuff, I will still have a good time, I will still have something to do.
Under event promotion, the checkbox for that is highlight different ways to participate. And also you can look at this as providing equivalent experiences. Everyone's coming to a ball event, but what different experiences can you offer at that event for everyone to be able to participate to the fullest?
And let people know that in your promotional material, because if I see like historical ball, come and dance the night away and stuff, I'm going to be like, great, not for me. And so if you let us know in the promotional material that there's also going to be games and sewing and crafts or something and food, then I'm like, okay, so even if I can't dance, I'll have other things to do, I can go to that.
Part of having different ways to participate is a good suggestion, but we don't want you to think that if you can't have everything, it's not an all or nothing type of situation, right? What we're saying is just let the potential participants know what if there are going to be options, if they're not going to be options. So if you're going to make a ball that, you are going to have just that because of the venue or whatever reasons you may have, like it's still okay to do those, but you have to be upfront with a lot of the information. So that way myself as a potential participant I can have all the information that I need so that I can make the decision and say, yes, this is something I want to go to, or no, I'll skip this one and see like what else comes up next.
Agreed. There are a couple of things you can do during your registration period. So you can gather information on accessibility needs. Are there dietary needs, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have people coming who have challenges with mobility? Allow for pronoun entry. in the registration form. So you can have that information on hand when people are checking in, and provide links to any pre or post event surveys that you might want to have, just to gather more, collect information on your attendees, so you know how you know what they may need you to provide for them. And like Maria said, it's not an all or nothing. You don't have to do every single tip that we're giving you. The more you can do, the better. If you can only do 2, that's still working towards inclusion. And it's really appreciated by the people in the communities that we're talking about.
Yes, for the registration part. So when you are collecting sensitive information like this, make sure that you are not sharing it with everybody. So having been part of an event committee before, there are just certain departments that wouldn't need to know all of these information. So, how you disseminate, because this is also private information that you're collecting with accessibility needs. Maybe it's only, the person that's working with the venue that needs to know, hey, we have 3 people. Like, you don't even have to give names necessarily. A lot of the times it's just for a head count of saying, okay, these are the things, like these are the things that were identified during registration. So these are the things that we need to keep an eye out for during the planning process. So be careful with what you're gathering, and not just sharing it and say, hey, everybody, this is what we got, right? Because it doesn't need to be at that level of sharing, but just use that information wisely to make choices.
Yeah, like Christine said earlier too, like sometimes even positive comments can still call attention to the fact that some of your participants are different. And that can trigger some negative emotions and stuff, and make the experience more of a turnoff. And so keeping that information private and making sure that it's only accessible to those who really need that information is really important.
And that could be as simple as, I use Google Drive for like lots of different things, lots of different event planning and spreadsheets and forms. I would make sure that if I have a form going out to collect this information, that not everyone has access to it. It's not in the main event folder that everyone on staff has access to, but that only the people who need it have access to open up the responses. And so the next line on our checklist is point 4, instructors and staff.
So instructor and staff preparation, to me, this is a really big one, because there's a lot of great people that have information, that have knowledge that they want to share, but how that information is shared matters. And so having, identifying who your instructors are going to be, and being able to provide them a little bit of a training or a package, just information to get them ready to actually deliver the content or prepare the content that they're going to share, is really, it goes a long way. So this one, I think, is, if you're gonna kind of pick and choose, like we were saying, it's not an all or nothing. I think for myself, at least, this one's a big one, because the people that are, even if they're volunteers, you're choosing them, and they're still representing your event. So it's important that they are ready to also have best practices and in what they're doing, and how they're going to be interacting with with the people, the participants, right? Because as a participant, if I go to an event and I have a bad experience because of a bad interaction with a teacher or a volunteer, it's going to reflect on you, the person that's throwing the event, right? I would be expecting a certain kind of level of preparedness, or something that would have happened ahead of time. So that's why I think this one's a really important one too, if you are going to have teachers in your events.
And this goes for even like your moderators. Like I do a lot of virtual events where on Zoom, we have moderators in each room. Make sure that you prep them to handle sensitive subjects. If they get a question in a room and they're handling questions about a controversial topic, do they understand how to handle that? So having a little bit of a training for your moderators is important, as well as just your staff and your instructors in general. I find it helpful just to talk through specific processes to make sure that conversations remain educational and respectful. I highlight that. So it's not like they need to go through an 8-hour training that you need to give them on this, but focus them on keeping things educational and respectful, and that goes a long way.
You can also recommend to your event staff, like, hey, please review our diversity and equity and inclusion policies, just to make sure that everyone's fully aware of what the code of conduct is and stuff, and what our goals are and stuff. And so that everyone knows that you guys are all on the same page, that inclusion is a priority and stuff, and that they are here to make everyone feel safe and welcome. And I think part of that just speaks to recruiting diverse speakers, diverse instructors, teachers, moderators, staff members and stuff. Having diversity at all levels, there again, is really important, because then you're going to have more people able to account for more needs, able to listen to more people and stuff. And so just having a real variety of people whose voices are being uplifted, is really important. And having diversity in your teaching staff and in your speakers and stuff shows us that we're not just here as participants, we're also here, and our expertise is respected, and people like us are respected and stuff, and that our knowledge is valuable, and that the organization and the event recognizes that. So having diversity in your teachers and in your staff is a really big one. Also, with regards to your event photographers, make sure that you speak with them about working with diverse people. We want to make sure that your event photographer knows how to work with a variety of skin tones without making anyone look ashy or sad. Like, you want to make sure that everyone's going to look their best. We want to make sure that they know how to work with LGBT participants, with bodies of all different sizes, how to take good photos of wheelchair users and stuff. We want to make sure that everyone feels like they're special, and that everyone feels like they're valued in this space. And so if your event photographer is only taking pictures of a very narrow subset of people, everyone else is going to notice that, and they're going to feel that. And so making sure that you talk with your event photographer and review your DEI policies with them, and let them know, like, hey, we want to make sure everyone gets good photos out of this. Please try to spread the love, show everyone equal attention. That's really important, so that everyone can really feel like their costumes and their presence is valued in this space.
Yeah, but that's actually one of the how I picked Lindsay, is I looked her for, and she photographs large people, she photographs small people, she photographs people of all colors, you know, and I really just appreciate people who have a nice breadth of work.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. I mean, I'm just gonna say I didn't even know that was a thing. I always wondered why in a group shot I would just look like washed out. And I had no idea it had to do with the skill of the photographer and whether or not they were thinking about their settings. And all they had to do was be cognizant that I also wanted to look good, and they could make it work for all of us. I had no idea for the longest about that.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of event photographers set their settings for a very specific type of person and a very specific look. And a lot of photographers have more experience working with a very specific type of model. And so having photographers that have worked with all different skin tones, all different body shapes and sizes and stuff, and knows how to make everyone look their best, and frankly, how to work with them as people, and how to treat them like models and stuff, and like they're valued as a subject and stuff, like, that's really important. If you're going to have a photographer who's dismissive of people that don't fit in their specific niche, that's a really big bummer, and it's going to be a huge turnoff for a lot of your participants, who are going to feel like they're being shuffled aside.
Yeah, and the skin tone one is it's a big one. You know, it's part of the reason I don't usually like to video myself is because I look very lighter with the cameras I have and the stuff I have, or even like people's phones. Like they just, they do different things to different skin tones that are not what it's calibrated for, right? So no, people knowing how to do the correct lighting, even if it's, let's say, if the four of us were going to be in the same room together, then, or I'm sorry, in the same room, if we're taking the same picture together, how lighting so that we all look good, not just like, okay, it's you light for one person and then the rest are just going to kind of come out. So just having that kind of knowledge, I know that one, is one that really does take a lot of skill, right? Lighting for skin tone.
Lighting
But
for
it does completely affect how somebody feels. There's few of pictures that I've had taken that I was very happy with, that I was like, oh my God, this is like, you can actually see what my skin tone is. Like, this is my real skin tone. And I have very few pictures of those. So it'll be super nice when you're going to an event to be able to get those kind of pictures back.
size inclusion is a really big one with event photographers. I've worked with photographers before who only want to work with skinny people. And making sure that your photographers are briefed on how to shoot with all different types of bodies and making sure that they're going to show equal attention to your plus size participants is very important, because fat phobia is a big thing in the costuming community, in photography, in modeling, and we want to make sure that people of all different shapes and sizes really do feel special and included.
On the topic of if you make a mistake, so if you've gone through 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's a mistake that's been made, what do you do then? I want to hear from Christine on that.
So, guys, I do want to say everyone makes mistakes. Absolutely everyone. I make mistakes. We all accidentally do something wrong, especially in this community. I mean, and I know that we've gone through so much, and there's so many ways to screw up, and I know I have. Just apologize. Don't make excuses. Please don't make an excuse, and don't give a bad apology. Just say I'm so sorry. Speak from the heart. Most people just want to see improvement.
Agreed.
Can we talk about how to make a good apology? Oh my God.
Please, what are your tips on making an appropriate apology and showing contrition?
One, and this is the biggest step, say I'm sorry or say I apologize. Say one of those two phrases. Don't beat around the bush. Don't say their mistakes were made by certain individuals. No, no, no. Just say I'm sorry. Like, I know it's so hard, but just say I'm so sorry for all the people we hurt. Oh, and don't say I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt, because that puts the blame on the persons whose feelings were hurt. Just say I'm sorry for making the mistake. I didn't know. I will work on it. And then two, work on it. Like, don't make it again, and show that, have a plan for how you're going to fix the problem, and just really don't do it. And honestly, that's all we ask. No excuses. Don't blame it on other people. Just say I'm sorry and then don't do it. I don't, it's really funny, but it's so many apologies I read. I'm like reading for it. I'm like, where's the I'm sorry? And it's not actually in there.
Mhm.
Those words, I'm sorry, actually do mean a lot. And how you phrase that sentence is going to inform people on how they're taking that. If you say, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt, you're apologizing for my actions. You're apologizing for me and for me being hurt. I'm not sorry that my feelings were hurt. I'm not sorry for anything. You need to be sorry for your actions. Say, I'm sorry that my actions hurt people. I'm sorry that I did something that hurt people. Take responsibility, and showing us that you're taking responsibility is really important, because it shows us that you are willing to own your actions and to grow from that. No one needs to apologize for us being hurt. No one needs to apologize for our feelings in this situation. It's the actions that caused this and stuff. It's not that anyone was sensitive. It's not that we need to like toughen up or anything. It's that your actions were harmful. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you made a mistake. And so owning up to that really goes a long way in rebuilding trust.
And I do want to emphasize, it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but the big show, and whether or not you're trustworthy and a good ally and a good event planner that is inclusive, is, do you own up to it, and are you willing to try to be better?
Yeah, the action's part of the apology. So like they were saying, we don't need an explanation. Like, yes, everyone has their own viewpoint of what happened in the situation, but we just want you to address what it was, the result of those events. So we don't, we're like, well, let me explain to you my side. We know it's not going to make anything different. Like, this is what happened. If you're an individual apologizing for yourself, it was somebody in your organization, and if you're leading that organization, then again, you take responsibility for whatever other people did, because you're the head of that organization. So just apologize. But the actions part is the biggest part. Like, I guess we want to see the I'm sorry, but if that's all I get is an I'm sorry and I'm going to do better, and that's it, and we don't see anything, and we know it takes time, right? Like, you can come up with a plan to figure out, well, what is it that I need to do? What do I need to work on? Like, it's okay. Like, I think sometimes it comes across, especially on social media, that we need to have the quickest of turnaround times. It's like, oh my gosh, if I don't respond to this in this moment, then I'm just, everyone's going to see me as bad. Or, it's okay to take some time and plan and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then come back with an answer. Like, I know that I've seen people in situations rush to get a response out, kind of like PR control. They're like, I gotta say something now. And it's like, no, you don't need to like address the situation. You could say, hey, I am sorry. I saw that this is what my actions made, and I'm gonna come back with a plan, and then share that plan with us of like what it is that you're gonna do. So, just for myself too, I don't expect immediate responses. Like, oh my gosh, like this is what it was. But I do want to see a response at some point to see, that you.
At this, Marie, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there to a little degree. Do you remember when Costume College, and I'm just gonna be explicit and just say names, when Costume College did the Silk Road thing, they said we'll get back to you in a month. I felt like that was a little bit too much time. I mean, I think that they could have said, I'm really sorry, we'll take this down, we'll figure this out, and we'll get more details out in a month. But they said we'll deal with this in a month. And I feel like that's different.
Yeah, and it's situational. And I mean, I'm glad that you actually disagreed, because we all have different opinions on this. And this is what's something that everyone needs to be like, we are here talking about this stuff that but we each still have our own opinions about how everything is going to be handled, and that's okay. I think I want everyone out there, whoever is listening to us and watching this video, to say like, it's okay that you're going to see some people disagree, but and yeah, some things are going to take longer. Some things are going to require a more immediate action, right? And again, it's all situational, but as long as it's happening, right? And to just keep that in mind as well, right? That it's like, just try not to cause harm, when it comes to it. If you have at this point in this section, just like address it. But like to Christine, that was too long for me. I was like, well, maybe they need to gather, whatever it was, right? But we still want the same result. We want accountability. We want contrition.
And we want action.
Yes.
So one thing we all agree on is that we want an apology, an actual apology. I'm sorry, I apologize. And we want you to show us what you're willing to do to make sure that doesn't happen again, and how you're going to be different. Okay, so even when you have a virtual event, like, people's schedules, they're just different. And so we had Christine for a little bit. She is going to go to sleep, get her rest for tomorrow's day of work. And we're going to continue on with number 5 on the checklist, final pre-event tasks. So these are considerations that you want to make right before the event happens. First, have an accessibility plan in place. Make sure that accessibility, those accessibility needs that you asked about at the beginning, those ADA compliance things you asked about at the beginning, they're still in action. Has there been a remodel? Have things changed between the time you sign that contract and now? Is it still okay to designate a room as a lactation room? Is it still okay for you to have a gender neutral bathroom? Is it still okay? Are there still going to be options for kosher meals and non-gluten-free meals? Like, just make sure that everything that was agreed upon in the beginning and that you asked about in the beginning still stands, because sometimes things change and the venue may not remember to go over that with you. So do that for your participants. Number 3, confirm captions and alt text on your website. For this event, I had a volunteer say, hey, I can help you with accessibility needs. And one thing we're going to do before Sunday happens and you see this video is we're going to go over the website to make sure that when people go to it, they can actually see everything on it and everyone can use it in the same way. Food, alternatives, halal, kosher, gluten-free. Also, food label with ingredient lists. If you're going to have snacks out, please, if at all possible, put ingredient lists out so that people can make informed choices on whether or not they can ingest the foods that are available. So
just making sure that you're providing all your guests with the guided map to know any accessibility entrances or exits for the venue. Also communication in making sure that everyone in your staff is aware of what the plan is. I've seen events where not everyone's aware, and so somebody comes and asks for help because they know, well, Erika is part of the event committee, right? So I run into an issue, let me go ask her, and then you'll go ask Erika. But if we didn't inform her of everything, like if she doesn't have even a quick cheat sheet, right, of saying, and then she might not have the answer, and then running around trying to see who's the person that has the answer. It's like, oh, you know what? Maria had that information. Let me go find her. Right? No, we need to make sure, like, I might have the in-depth information, but Erika should have a little snippet of the information to make sure that we are addressing situations, as they're coming up. So make sure that everyone is aware of things, options, choices, like who to go to if something is more in-depth and they need it. So all
That's
of
where
them
Google
communicate.
Drive, that's where Google Drive is super helpful because you can share your folders to your entire event planning team. So everyone will be able to access that information. And even if you have a folder that's just like, hey, cheat sheets, and there's like food options in there, an ADA accessible map and stuff, like just having all of that information aggregated in one place where it's super easy for your event staff to access it and pass out that information as necessary. If someone then comes up to me and I don't have all the specifics that Maria might have, then I will be able to hop in that Google Doc and be like, I don't know yet, but I can know right now, and find that information really quickly so that everyone feels like their needs are going to be addressed.
Agreed. And so let's move on to the next heading on the checklist, which is 6, during and after. So during the event and after the event. A good thing to have at your welcome desk, right, is a lot of information, not just how you can check in and how you can pay and et cetera, and where you should park. At the check-in table, you can have signs and materials about the food options, about the accessibility options. You can inform people whether portions of the event are going to be recorded so they can make an informed choice on that. Also, if you have designated or reserved seating available for those that need it, like people who are hard of hearing to be closer to the front of the room so they can hear the instructor, or to the front of the venue so they can hear, for instance, in the SCA, we have court at events where important announcements are read and awards are handed out. And a lot of times that front row is just saved for people who have hearing challenges, whether they are deaf or hard of hearing, so they can see the interpreter, or they can hear, use their devices to hear what's being said. And also make sure that day of, those requests can also be made. If you have designated seating, have that information at the front desk when people check in. And so day of, if someone didn't know there was special seating that they could take advantage of, that they can be informed of that when they check in. Flyers posted with your code of conduct and complaint policy and process, right? If you have information on requirements for behavior, post those at your welcome desk. Have them available to people who are checking in so they can understand. If they didn't go to the website, maybe they didn't go to the website. Maybe they heard about the event and they just showed up and they're going to register and come. Make sure that there's a notice that, hey, we have requirements for the way you behave here. And also that if anything goes wrong, these are the steps you can take to submit a complaint or to have some recourse if something goes wrong for you.
You also have a note on highlight different ways to participate. So when people register or when they come to check in and stuff, just make sure that you brief everyone on all the different ways to participate, whether that's, dancing, games, arts and crafts, whatever it is, like just letting people know, like, hey, there's a bunch of options. So if someone is like might not feel up to certain activities that day or something, or they might need something a little more low key, then they'll know, like, hey, I have a bunch of different options. Here are what my options are.
Okay. And so for after the event, this is where you can use data collection and tracking. So you can send a post-event survey, right? Not only thanks people for coming and supporting your event, but also asks about their experience with inclusion and accessibility at your event. So maybe you can have some lessons learned for the next time. There's always going to be something we miss, right? And there may be someone who wants to join your organization that has a specific need, and you understanding that need will help them actually come on in, right?
Oh, just with regards to the post-event survey, that also provides people the opportunity to advocate for themselves. So if something did come up that they weren't comfortable speaking about at the actual event, then they might be able to tell you during the survey, like, hey, here was something that I like could have been improved for me to have a better experience and stuff. Or like if there's just, little things here and there that you can learn and grow from, it provides people the opportunity to voice their own needs so that you don't have to make all of the assumptions. You don't have to like account for everyone else's needs. People will tell you what their needs are if you just provide them the opportunity to do that.
And part of when you're reading, when hopefully you are collecting that information, I think what happens sometimes is that you're gonna see some feedback that say, hey, this could have been better, that could have been better. And then you get completely deflated and you're like, I failed. Like there was something and I just completely failed. And it's like, no, just think of, again, remember that this is a learning opportunity. If you are taking a lot of things into consideration, what we're doing is like, we're not guaranteeing 100% that everyone is going to be happy. You're still having a lot of people there, but we are hoping to minimize the amount of bad feedback or bad things that can happen at an event. So, just take the feedback. Don't take it personal, just take it as a learning point. You're like, okay, if I'm going to do an event again, I'm going to take these other things into consideration. It's a cycle, it's like we mentioned, it's not an all or nothing kind of thing. Like you are going to make a mistake and it's like, okay, next time I hadn't thought about this, even with the checklist. Sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't think about this section. And so you'll see it and then great. Now you know what else to include in the next thing that you put on. So, good faith. Yeah, I have good faith that you're trying to do all these things. Like, how much you attempted to do on the back end. We don't we don't get to see a lot of the back end things, but we can see enough of when the events happen to say, this person tried to plan, like this person, or this group was putting effort into seeing it. Even if we could say, well, this could be better next time, it doesn't diminish like the work that you were doing to plan this event and try, attempting to make it inclusive and make it feel safe for more people to attend and have more diverse people attend there as well. So
you can also ask for positive feedback too. You can be like, hey, what did we do right? Because then if people are like, hey, I really loved having the gender neutral bathrooms, A, kept the bathroom lines moving faster, and B, made it much more comfortable for my non-binary friends to pick a bathroom. Like that's something that lets you know, like, hey, we did something right, and this is something to continue in the future. This is a really important thing. And so asking for like, hey, what did we get right and what could use improvement? Like those are both important categories. You don't just have to seek out negative feedback, because knowing what made people feel more comfortable is going to be important too.
And again, if a mistake is made during your pre-event considerations, during your event, and in your survey, right? If you get information on a mistake has been made, what did we tell you to do? Apologize, and then let people know what actions you're going to take to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I think we're also just looking for effort too. Like Maria said, and like Gigi just said, like, what we want to see is that people are taking this issue seriously and that people are trying and putting in a concerted effort to make sure that a lot of different people feel comfortable. You're never going to be able to anticipate everyone's needs. You're not going to be able to control every scenario, but knowing that it's a priority to you, knowing that you care and that you're putting in the effort is a really big deal. So even like the fact that you're watching this panel and taking these issues into account means that you're trying. And so letting us know that, sending out the survey, making sure that you have this information accessible on your website, like that shows us that even if you're not there yet, you're working on it and you care. And that's really important into showing us that this is a safe environment.
Yeah, I'll say for the Silk Roads event, I made mistakes. I did. I'm probably going to make more mistakes before this day is over. But when those mistakes came to light for me, I apologized to the person letting me know that I am sorry. I did not intend for this to cause offense or this to be put out there, this misinformation to be put out there, and I'm going to rectify it. And here's how. And that was just sincere and from the heart. Like, I know how it is to be on the other end of it, right? I know how it is to attend events and be uncomfortable and have no way of expressing that and just go through the whole event with, with discomfort. In fact, that is pretty much the status quo for people of color at most events. One of the reasons that we're speaking out about this is because if you do want to do better, we would love to help you do better, because we don't want to continue being uncomfortable. And for a lot of us, it's becoming untenable. And so I'm limiting the events I go to where I have to be uncomfortable. So I would love for you to take these tips and make your event comfortable so I can come and give you my money. Yes, I want to do that and dress up. But yeah, even at this event, even a person of color, right? I don't know everything. I don't know everything about every other person's experience. And so I'm following the same checklist that I'm telling you guys you should maybe take a look at. Feel free to alter it to fit your needs. Feel free to add notes to it. Take this information, give me credit if you post it somewhere, but take this information and share it. Like, and if you have improvements that you think we could make to it, please message me and I'll add it to my event checklist so that the next time I have an event, I can do even better.
Yeah, the checklist is a good starting point, when to assess where you're currently at. Take this checklist, look at a past event that you have attended or that you have put on and see where the gaps are. This one's a good assessment thing to say, like, okay, this is where we currently stand, and these are the areas where we need improvement, and which ones, are what we call like low hanging fruit. What are the ones that are like going to be an easy thing to fix, and which ones are going to take more work to fix, and then make a plan for it. We're not saying any of this is easy by any means. It is work. It's all event planning is a lot of work, and inclusive event planning is even more work. But we do it like Gigi said. Yes, take my money. Like, I want to go to more events. I want to feel comfortable. In the past, I think we tend to be in situations where we're just trying to pick. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna forward.
Compartmentalize.
Yes. And you're like, okay, I really want this event because I really want to go dance. And so I'm gonna go to the event and I know that I'm gonna be uncomfortable and I'm just gonna try to ignore it. And I hope that something else doesn't happen at the event that's going to make me uncomfortable. And the fact that we have to choose the fun and the uncomfort sucks. so so yeah, a lot of it is like there's only so much of that you can do. So sometimes you're just not gonna attend events because you're like, okay, I can't, like, I don't have the strength to go there and know that potentially something, that I'm not going to be taken care of. And so we miss out on participating on things because, they don't feel that safe, or they don't feel like they're going to be safe. And so if you take these things into consideration, then, hopefully it's going to open up the spaces for more people. And every hobby needs growth, it's good to have people that have been there doing it a long time that can help each other, and then people that are newer and that can, it's a mix, and it's always a good mix. But we do want more events that feel more inclusive for more people.
So now that we've finished the checklist, just a couple of other considerations. There are some gold star examples out there for you guys to use for inclusive event planning. Christine talked a little bit about the St. Louis Historical Sewing Society, and I am going to include a link to their site below. They have their DEI statement right on the front page, along with their grievance policy. And then if you go into their event, their Georgian ball, then those links are repeated on the ball page, so that if you're going to go to that event, you understand that these two things are things they thought were important to display and provide for all the potential attendees. That's really great. Also, the Antiquarian dinner that I know a lot of people have seen posted last year that Dandy Wellington had, that was a much smaller event, right? It was just basically a group of his friends. But he has a variety of friends. There were white people at his dinner. There were Black people at his dinner. There were Asians at his dinner, etc. I felt great being there because I knew that there was a person of color on the planning team, because Dandy's a person of color. And lo and behold, his event was very comfortable to be at. So even if it's a small group that you're planning, look at your friend group. Do you have a variety of friends? Do you have any friends that are people of color? Would they like to come to your event? Did you invite them? Did you ask them what they thought about your event theme or how you handed out the invites? Because they may have opinions. And so even if you're not going to change anything because it's too late in your event planning to do so, asking your friends how you could be more inclusive, how you can make them feel more comfortable, and listening and hearing what they have to say, I think is important.
I think one point to emphasize that I really felt comfortable with too at the Antiquarian dinner is your planning team will kind of be reflected in your membership and in your guests. And so when Dandy was planning this event with like assistance from Abby and Noelle and stuff, like that was, 1/3 of that planning team was a person of color. And then about a third of our guests at that dinner too were also people of color. And so looking at your planning team is going to kind of show you like how comfortable are people going to be when they show up. And they were very conscientious about checking in with us, like what are your needs going to be and stuff. And so I thought that was really successful, that even on a small scale, even when it's a private event with like fewer people and stuff, and it's people who all know each other too, they were still checking in like, hey, I know that you're neurodivergent, what are your needs going to be and stuff, like, hey, I know you have chronic pain, like what are your needs going to be and everything. They checked in with all of us when we were planning this dinner and stuff to make sure that our needs would be met, even on a small scale event. And so that made me feel really comfortable. And so now if any of the guests, like if these guests are planning other events in the future that are more public events, I'd be like, okay, well, they accounted for my needs then, and I feel pretty good about them accounting for my needs going forward too. And so I'd be more willing to attend more events and stuff like that. And I know that my needs will be a priority.
And then, of course, we also have the GBACG, Greater Bay Area Costuming Guild, that's been talked about. Again, links below. They have an anti-racism plan that I think if you're trying to craft one, you can use theirs as an example. Also, they have taken steps to make their board of directors more diverse. They have made some missteps in the past. I have heard stories when we were doing costuming and color interviews about some of the issues that have happened in the past, but they're making a concerted effort to not make those same mistakes, and to try to be more inclusive and equitable. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, as a member of the GBACG, even though they have made mistakes, I'm still a member and I still go to events because I know that diversity is a priority. I know that I know that diversity is a priority to the people on the board, and I know that it's a priority in their bylaws. I know that they have like a very specific anti-harassment policy. I know that their members care about it and stuff. And so even though they make mistakes, they're showing us through action that they're trying to grow and that they're willing to put in the work to make things better. And so a lot of us still go. There's still pretty diverse attendance at these events and stuff because like mistakes happen, but they're willing to work on it.
Yeah, that was actually the point I was gonna make. And as a Southern California customer, I get to see a lot of the stuff too, and I know a lot of people that are there. And I think that is one of the important things that has happened, is that you have seen the growth throughout time, right? Like I said, mistakes were made, okay, but there has been a very obvious change, and it's taken time. I do want to point that out. It wasn't just like all of a sudden that the costuming guild was like, oh, hey, it's just, it's a 180. We're going to, no, it takes time, because all this work takes time. But I wanted to recognize that, that it's being seen, it's being heard, and that's why people stick around. So that's something that you need to keep in mind as well. It's like, okay, again, you're not going to make everybody happy, right? But you are attempting to make a big group happy. And so being able to see, like, some people, when you make a mistake, some people are going to just automatically dismiss you, right? And just be done with you. That's their choice. Some people are going to stick around longer and say, you know what, I want to see, like, I know they're not feeling very safe right now, but I want to see what they're going to do. And again, that's out of your control, right? That's up to everybody, what kind of leeway they have, what kind of space they're going to offer. Your part in all this is actually, your action steps towards making things better. So don't think that because, well, so-and-so messaged me and now they're done with me, and like, that doesn't relieve you of the fact that there's work to do, right? If somebody is done with you, that's up to all of us individually, right? Our timeline for things. But don't take that as, well, I'm not going to do the work. Like, do the work, because there's always eyes, and there's always going to be other people that are looking to say, hey, okay, you know what, this person made a mistake, this organization made a mistake, but we have seen that they're actually trying to fix it, and that it's not just an apology in words, right? So keep that in mind. Like,
and there's a lot of room for forgiveness too. There's a lot of room for growth. Like Gigi said, and like Maria said, we don't want to be sad and miserable at these events. We want to go and have a good time and give organizations our money to have a good time. Like we want growth and improvement and stuff. And so if you guys are genuinely willing to put in the work, to put in the effort, and to like give us those tangible actions that are going to show change, then we're you can still win people back after a mistake. Like, I think we were talking about some of the recent chaos that we've seen in certain costuming events, and we've like, a lot of us have said, like, we're willing to go back if they show us change. Like, if they implement those DEI policies and stuff, and they show us an enforcement mechanism and stuff to protect vulnerable members and stuff, if they show us that they're willing to uplift diverse voices, diversify their organization plans, their organization committees and stuff, like, we're willing to go back, we're willing to let them grow. We want everyone to improve, we want everyone to learn, and we're willing to forgive. We just need to know that this is a priority and that action is going to happen. Oh, that's one of the things that the GBACG has shown us. Like, they've made mistakes in the past, but they're really willing to grow, and a lot of the community in our area has forgiven and continues to attend their events and continues to really thrive in this environment.
I think you two have made a really good point. Like, for those people who maybe reach their limit and need to step away from an organization after a mishap, or after offense has been caused. Let's not call it a mishap. After offense has been caused, it's because they've reached their threshold. They're tired of being uncomfortable. They're tired of being hurt. They don't want to feel unsafe anymore. And it's okay for them to say, I need to take a break, or I'm done. Either way, I don't blame them at all, because I am also tired of being offended, tired of feeling unsafe, tired of being uncomfortable. But I will say that I am really, really willing to forgive if an organization is trying to do better, even incrementally, even small steps. If I can see that they really do want to do better and they want to create an experience that is not so uncomfortable for me, and that's not unsafe for me, and they don't want to offend me, then I'm all for giving them the room for that growth, right? And growing pains happen, mistakes. It's not if you're going to make a mistake, it's when, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's for all of us, even in this event here that I planned. So I give that same grace to other people that I would like extended to me. But we would like to see that you want to do better. And if you show us that, we're willing to jump in the bandwagon with you, to be on your team, to promote you, to spend our money with you. We want to have a good time, and we want to have a good time with others who like the same things that we like as well. So this year I'm not going to costume college because I saw the offense that was caused to other people of color, my friends who were deeply hurt by some of the things that were said and co-signed on by the guild that runs costume college. And so I said, I'm going to take a break, but I am open to, in the future, looking at going again. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be upset. I would love to be like, oh, that was a bump in the road, but now I'm having fun at costume college. So we'll see what happens in 2024. Costume college 2024. You guys, please make this happen. Please do better so we can make this happen.
See growth and improvement, we're willing to go back. We all love this event. We just want to see growth. We just want to see that our humanity is respected, and that our people are respected, and our feelings matter, and that our safety is a priority. And so when we see these things blow up online, and we see all of these people coming out of the woodwork with their prejudice and their biases, and we see the organization not taking a stand on that, and we see them really doubling down in a lot of ways and defending their actions like that, that makes us feel unsafe. And so if we can see action, if we can see growth, if we can see genuine contrition, and not just a slew of excuses and cover-ups and brushing it under the rug kind of a thing, like, if we see genuine effort to prioritizing our safety, we're willing to come back. We're willing to let people grow. We all want to have a good time. We all want to enjoy this hobby and enjoy this space together. We just need to protect ourselves too, because there's a lot going on in this world for people of color, and for a lot of different groups right now who are struggling. And so it can take a lot of emotional energy if you're in a space that doesn't feel safe. And so having that genuine effort to grow, to improve, to provide safe spaces, that means a lot to us.
And along with that, it's just, set your expectations. I mean, like your own expectations. Just because you've made changes, don't expect everyone that's just going to forgive you right away. Because a lot of the times we've seen something happen, and yeah, we could see you change, attempting change. I still want to see that it actually happened, right? Like I might see your contrition, I mean, your action plan, but until that plan is like, if that event happens, then I'm still going to take a step back and be like, okay, I want to see how they actually handle this event. So they had a plan, but did they follow through with what they said they were going to do? So, don't think, oh, well, I may have, there was some big mistakes in my event last year. And now I went and I did all these changes. And this year it was still low, right? It's like, well, yeah, because people were still, like there's still a distance you want to keep, because you want to make sure that they did become a safer place. So keep that in mind. It's going to take time. But if you keep working towards it, you will see more growth. Time. We're
Yeah,
not just quick to just be like, oh yeah, cool. They said they were going to do this thing, and now I'm good with it. No, we actually want to see it happen, and we want to see that the safeness is there.
it takes time to build trust, but when you
Mhm.
do, when you show us those patterns of behavior, then you know that you've earned that trust, and that like then like if we can see that that trust is there, then we're willing to come to events, and we're willing to bring our friends and take the pictures and promote it on social media or whatever it is that would uplift to this event, this organization. Like we are willing to we are willing to trust. We are willing to let people grow. We just need to see that the effort is there, and that the patience is there, and that even though trust is not owed, trust can still be earned.
Agreed. Well, I think we finished our checklist and we had a great discussion after. If you guys have any questions for us about the statements we've made or the worksheet, please reach out to us on social media. All of those links will be below, so you can come message us on the platform. Thank you so much, Erika. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, Christine, for giving me some of your time. And I'll see you at the next event.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. This was a great conversation. I'm really glad we could do this.
Yes. And I hope to see a lot of conversation happening in the comments. I know I'll be in there and seeing what your reflections are, what your tips are as viewers, right? Maybe there's something we left out, like it's not, there wasn't an extensive list. It's a really good list, but, I want to see what your opinion, I want to read what your opinions are as well from everybody, and say, hey, this is something I normally look for an event to know that I'm going to be safe, things like that. So please share with us.
We will be checking the comments, you guys. All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.